You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Today's repair and the future repairs. Purchase on weekends and holidays. No hassle guarantee. Adams Heating and Cooling, 205-872-0045.
The Gary Harris Show. You see him host Tider Insider TV, Crimson Tide Kickoff, play-by-play for Alabama sports, and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Gary Harris Show for this Thursday, November 14, 2024. I'm your host, Gary Harris. My main man, Chase Brumfeld, is manning the controls, taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline at 205-342-9904. And we're ready to roll the next couple of hours talking sports and more here on Big Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC. Got a great show on tap, always is the case on Thursday as we kind of start getting cranked up for the weekend, the football weekend that's ahead. And we're going to run it down for you in just a second. First, though, I need to let you know, as always, this hour of the Gary Harris Show being brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. Member-owned and not-for-profit, it really is just a better way of banking. Find out more at alabamacu.com. That's alabamacu.com. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership. Then join today and feel good about your money. And put extra change in your pocket. All right, the Thursday lineup. Ellis Johnson, the coach, joining us at 9:30 to break down SEC football. Then at 10 o'clock, it's D. Orlando Ledbetter, Atlanta Falcons beat writer for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, AJC.com, with the Falcons report. Atlanta coming off a disappointing loss on the road to New Orleans last Sunday. And at 10:30, it's Jeff Spiegel, sports anchor, ABC 3340, host of The Zone, host of the EOG Wrap. He'll be with us at 10:30. Your phone calls are welcome on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. Pinnacle Park at North River, luxury townhomes in a gated community near beautiful Lake Tuscaloosa. You've got to see them to believe them. Find out more at pinnacleparknr.com. 205-342-9904 is the number if you want to give us a ring. We would love to hear from you. As I said, we're getting geared up for another football weekend. Alabama hosting, of course, the Mercer Bears, 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon at Saban Field inside Bryant-Denny Stadium. Now, no TV for that game. It's ESPN Plus stream only. Also, of course, obviously, you can hear it on the Crimson Tide Sports Network with Chris Stewart, Tyler Watts, Damian Square, right here on Tide 100.9 FM and 95.3 The Bear, your flagship station for Alabama football in Tuscaloosa. But no over-the-air television for that game. The rest of the SEC schedule, and we'll be breaking these games down, of course, with the coach Ellis Johnson. But Texas is at Arkansas. That is an 11 a.m. kick on ABC. Auburn hosts the University of Louisiana Monroe Warhawks at 11:45. That's on the SEC Network. You got Murray State at Kentucky. Of course, Murray State coached by Jody Wright. Local product. That's at 12:30. That is a stream game as well. SEC Network Plus. Alabama hosting Mercer at 1, SEC Network Plus. At 2:30, it's Florida hosting LSU. That's on ABC. At 3:15, South Carolina hosts Missouri. That's an interesting game. Two top 25 teams over in Columbia. Well, Columbia, South Carolina, because they're both from Columbia. Columbia, Missouri, Columbia, South Carolina. That one is coming up at 3:15 on the SEC Network. Tennessee at Georgia. That, of course, is the marquee game at 6:30 on ABC, I should say. That one's on ABC. And then at 6:45 on SEC Network, Texas A&M hosts New Mexico State. So that is your lineup for this Saturday in the Southeastern Conference. And as I said, Coach Ellis Johnson will join us at 9:30. As we'll break those games down, also look back, of course, to Alabama and LSU and Georgia and Ole Miss from this past weekend. All right, Alabama women's basketball last night in action at home against a good Norfolk State team. Really, I mean, it's they won 30 games a year ago and were undefeated this year. This game was a lot like the Alabama McNeese men's game from the other night. Alabama women had a 17-point lead, but they could not put Norfolk away, and this one wound up. Alabama got the win, 68-58. Afterwards, Christy Curry just talked about how sometimes you have to win ugly games, and that New Mexico State does a great job of slowing you down and making you play at their pace and their tempo. And they were able to do that and make it an interesting game. But Alabama does get the win as the Crimson Tide remains unbeaten on the season at 4-0. So great start for Alabama women's basketball. The Alabama men getting ready to go to West Lafayette, Indiana. They'll leave later on today, and they've got a game tomorrow night at Purdue. This will be a big game for the Crimson Tide against a quality opponent. Last year, these two teams played up in Canada. Of course, Purdue had Zach Edey, who, of course, is now with the Memphis Grizzlies. And Purdue won that game, but it was a very exciting and competitive game. Now these two teams will meet again tonight, or tomorrow night, I should say. Like I said, tomorrow night at Purdue. So that'll be a nice challenge for Alabama men's basketball. As we're at that point in the calendar where we've got college football going on, we've got college basketball going on. So we have that kind of that mix. There's just something happening, pretty much every night. And that will continue to be the case right on through the holidays and into the college football playoffs. So we'll keep you up to date, of course, here on the Gary Harris Show. NFL football, of course, tonight as well. Thursday night NFL. And the game is a good one. I mean, this is a battle for first place in the NFC East. This is one of those games where, again, if you've got the stream, you can watch it on Amazon Prime Stream. If you don't, it's disappointing because this is a big-time game. Commanders and the Eagles tonight in Philadelphia. And Brian Robinson Jr., former Alabama and Hillcrest standout who has been out with an injury, is expected to play tonight for the Commanders. They've got a lot of Alabama guys on their team. Of course, the Eagles have a lot of Alabama guys on their team. And these are the two best teams in the NFC East. So they will kick it off tonight at 7:15 Central Time in Philadelphia on Prime, which is the streaming service. So I hate that was not on over-the-air TV. I can tell you that because I don't have Prime. But I'll be working tonight anyway, but still, it'll be a heck of a football game in the National Football League. We're gearing up for round 2 of the Alabama High School Athletic Association state playoffs. We've got a number of teams still in action, one of which is Tuscaloosa Academy in Class 2A. And the Knights are a team that I think has a chance to make a deep run. They blew out North Sand Mountain last week at home. Now they go on the road to Blountsville to take on Susan Moore tomorrow night. Now, Susan Moore had an upset win last Friday night over Decatur Heritage. So you would think that TA, based on the fact that they're 9-2, Susan Moore is 6-5, but they have won their last 3 games, including that upset win last week. But still, I feel like TA is a much better football team here and in this situation. But we will keep an eye on all the high school football for you tomorrow night as we get deeper into the state playoffs. Also, I want to mention that earlier in the week, I discussed that family 4-pack of tickets from the StrikerStrong.org that was donated to me by Robbie Glenn from Striker Strong, and we were going to give them away, but I wanted to make sure I tried to get them in the hands of somebody that doesn't normally get an opportunity to go to a game, and I was able to do that. I found a family that has an opportunity to come to the game, and so I went ahead and was able to get those tickets into somebody's hands that's going to use them. We appreciate Robbie Glenn and StrikerStrong.org for donating those tickets, and now we'll have a family that gets to go to an Alabama football game on Saturday. So we have already given those away, but we appreciate Striker Strong. And Robbie reminded me, too, that for you fight fans out there, now I don't know how I feel about these fights. You got 50-something-year-old Mike Tyson fighting Jake Paul, who, started out, I guess, as I don't know, an internet star, but got into fighting. Him and his brother both. I hope it's Jake. There's two Pauls, I think. But Tyson versus Paul tomorrow night on Netflix, and it's a fight that's garnering a lot of interest. To me, it's more like exhibition boxing. As good as Tyson was in his prime, he's now in his 50s. Paul is, somebody that's become a fighter, but it has a lot of interest, and so that's tomorrow night. As good as Tyson was, I think there's a lot of revisionist history here. And he's in good shape. I've seen him. I'm not saying I think he'll beat Paul, but toward the end of his career, he got beat a lot. And I've heard some people say that he could get in the ring now. Now, let's be clear on that. If he got in the ring now with a top flight current heavyweight, he'd get knocked out very quickly. But let's be clear on that, okay? I'm not saying he won't beat this Paul character, but I thought that Mike Tyson could get in the ring with top flight 30-year-old heavyweight and compete now is not going to happen. He's not going to do it, number one. But this is, got some interest to it, but this is not high-level heavyweight boxing. Same thing with Paul. If either one of these guys got in the ring not right now with the current top-flight heavyweight, they would get knocked out. But they're fighting each other, so a lot of interest in that fight. All right, it's 14 minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock. We're off and running here on the Gary Harris Show. And we've got the coach, Ellis Johnson, coming up at 9:30. Wide open for phone calls in the next segment. So let's get those phone calls ringing. We're going to get keep Chase busy. Let's get the phones ringing at 205-342-9904. 205-342-9904 is the number. We'd love to hear from you out there. Alabama football, are you worried about a letdown? Are you worried that they won't be as sharp as they need to be? I think they're going to win the football game regardless. But how do you think they'll play? The last time they had a win of this caliber was against Georgia, and they came back the next week in Nashville against Vanderbilt and got beat. Will they be ready to go on Saturday? What are your thoughts on that? Do you think Auburn Tigers will get a win? They're playing the University of Louisiana Monroe, so you would think, but this Auburn team, man, they've had a hard time finding ways to win games. So they'll be at home on Saturday against ULM. So we'll discuss those games. If you want to give us a ring, if you want to talk Bama basketball, the Tide's 3-0, but they did not exactly blow out Arkansas State or McNeese State. They go on the road to Purdue. So let's get those phone lines going. 205-342-9904 is the number on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. We'll take our first break. This is the Gary Harris Show. We'll be right back after this.
Good Thursday morning. The 12th annual Purchase with a Purpose party will usher in the Christmas shopping season starting tonight and tomorrow night. It will be at Northport Baptist Church. Items from all over the world be available at a fair market price, with proceeds going to various mission projects. The party is 6 to 9 p.m. both nights. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage all throughout the day. It's absolutely free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3.
Experience the wow factor. Contact Shoot Masonry and Specialties at 205-887-3807 today and unleash your home's full potential.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and
challenges. When you need more than a Band-Aid, there's the DCH Wound Care Center. Learn more about our services at dchsystem.com/wound care.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions, both dining rooms, at the bar, and outside on the beautiful patio. Come by and say hello to Kim and Lisa, the Billy's Management Dream Team. Billy's, good food, good friends, and good time.
You're listening to the Gary Harris Show.
Goal line and touchdown,
streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show, and asking you shall receive. The phone lines have backed up right now, so we got Robert, we got Pat, and we got Tom all ready to go. So we'll start off with Robert in Birmingham. Good morning, Robert.
Hey, buddy. Good morning. After I'm always giving you observations, in my opinion. I don't know if you agree with them half the time or not, but after seeing Bama play the last two games, this young blood guy that's not playing, who I've not even seen yet in a scrimmage or anything, he could be kind of a missing link because he's 6'4", 6'5". He's going to add, Sears and Reitzel can't do all the scoring because Stevenson's pretty inconsistent. This guy might be kind of a missing link that kind of brings this whole jambalaya gumbo team we got together as far as from a, I hadn't seen him play defense. I hadn't seen, all that kind of stuff. But as far as from a scoring standpoint, it really could help a lot. When's he due back?
I'm not sure. I think probably mid-December, but that's the time frame that I'm hearing. But nothing set in stone with that. But yeah, I do agree with you, Robert, that he would help a lot in a lot of different areas.
And he's a senior too. He's not some 19-year-old kid, 18.
No, he's a proven player. He's a proven player on both ends. He's physical. He's a top defender. He can shoot the three. There's no doubt that he'll add a lot. I think, had he been healthy, he would be a starter right now.
I think just based off on paper, you're right. Philon he's a gamer. He's gutty. He's a dog. But he's 6'1", 6'2". He's not going to get you 20 a night. And I think the Auburn guy he's a 2-year project in my opinion. He needs to stay here for 2 years, improve, get better. Don't transfer out. Learn, get stronger, get bigger, and then go to pro after 2 years. So this guy, he's going to help a lot. And like I mentioned on Monday, I think the Oklahoma game I'm looking past Mercer. I shouldn't do it. Coach get mad at me, but the Oklahoma game, they're not going to let Jalen run the ball. They got 2 weeks to prepare. Jalen's going to have to throw in that game. And if he comes out and he takes a step forward in that game on the road at night, passing the football, we got a chance to go deep in the playoffs, in my opinion. So, all right, man, I listened to your reply, and have a good one. All right.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think on Jalen Milroe, I think he's taken a step many times. I think that he's had great games where he's thrown the football. I got a lot of faith in Jalen Milroe. He led Alabama to an SEC championship a year ago and into overtime in the college football playoff semifinal against Michigan, which won the national title. He made a 4th and 31 play to win the Iron Bowl. No quarterback is perfect. No quarterback has a perfect game every game. I think Jalen Milroe is, I wouldn't trade him for any quarterback in the country for this team. I think he's the perfect quarterback. That's the way I feel about it. So, yeah, I think Alabama's got a chance to go deep. Let's talk to Pat. Good morning, Pat.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, Gary. Hey, is the sky falling? I'm reading articles from talking heads that are saying the Crimson Crown Jewel of our class is gone. The Crown Jewel, they called it.
You talking about Caleb Cunningham?
Hang on. We're paying Captain Morgan nearly $1 million a year to keep his finger on the pulse of this class. I'm highly disappointed.
Well, I'm not that disappointed. I mean, it happens. This is a guy, and I don't know. He may flip again. He's been up and down since the recruiting process started. This is the NIL era. Pat, I can promise you this had nothing to do with Alabama not keeping or Courtney Morgan keeping his finger on the pulse of what's going on. Ole Miss is trying to get good football players too. I don't know that he's the crown jewel. I think he's a nice receiver. I think Alabama's got good receivers on their team now. I think they'll get other good receivers. So, and who knows what might happen with Cunningham going forward. But this is the new era of recruiting. It's going to go back and forth with a lot of these guys. And even after you sign them, there's no guarantee that they'll get in here and they'll stay. We've seen guys leave before we signed guys last year that came in December and left before they ever got the spring ball, left before the next semester. So I understand your disappointment because he's a 5-star wide receiver out of Choctaw County, Mississippi. He's a talented guy. but Ole Miss was never going to go away with him. They were always going to be a factor. And so they flipped him, and we'll see if he stays there or if he winds up going somewhere else.
Right. And I just wanted to see if I could get y'all started up this morning.
Well, you probably could have a few years ago, Pat, but with the way this has changed, I don't get that stirred up about it anymore. I just don't. Commitment used to mean something. It means nothing now, other than for the moment you've got a guy who says he's coming to your school, but nobody quits recruiting them. Nobody, there's money on the table. There's all kinds of things that go into this. So you're going to still try to recruit well, and I think Alabama's going to have an excellent class. But this is not. He's probably not the last guy that's committed to Alabama right now that's going to wind up flipping or signing somewhere else. Correct. And it's going to happen with all these schools.
Yeah. The thing is, we have Russell who has his. He's in the air with the top wide receiver in the country, Decorian Moore. His wide receiver at Nothingnville in Texas that's committed to Oregon and all that swoosh stuff out there. That my question is, what's the latest on who a five-star we already have in the fold is already on campus, but that's been hurt in one Jalen Hale. I'm hearing that Jalen Hale's actually started running, and that we could potentially get him back in the playoffs. I
don't know about the getting him back in the playoffs. I do know that his recovery is going well, and I think he's going to be a really good football player for Alabama. He was a good receiver last year until he got hurt. Again, there's a lot that goes into bringing a guy back. It isn't just being healthy enough, but it's getting actually ready to play football. But I am hearing what you just said, that it's all going well with him. So hopefully he'll get recovered, and who knows what can happen with the medical care that they have these days. But we'll keep an eye on it.
Gotcha. Jalen Hale is just a very special talent. And, but anyway, Gary, thank you for taking my call. Hey, have a blessed day. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Same to you. All right, we're going to get Tom on here before we close out the segment. Good morning, Tom.
Hey, Gary. How are you this morning?
Doing well.
Do you think we could solicit someone in the audience that would call in and talk about the options on streaming the basketball? I know Peacock is NBC, and that they're slated to broadcast the game. But I wonder if there's a way to get it on some of our other platforms. You think somebody might call in and give us some info on that?
I don't know. I guess they could. I mean, any other way that you get it probably would not be. I don't know. I mean, it's Peacock's telecast. So
it seems like every time I subscribe to something so I can broaden my selection of sports, particularly college basketball, here comes something else that you got to subscribe to get a game that you want to see.
Well, that's the nature of where we're headed with all this. I mean, it's we're headed toward a lot of pay-for-play type of, viewing and pay-per-view, and that's just the reality of it. I don't know. Again, if somebody wants to call in and I don't want to do, I don't want to do anything that's illegal.
Well,
I don't want to encourage any of that. But all I know is it's a Peacock telecast, so you can subscribe to Peacock. But I know there are people who find a way to watch these things on different outlets, but I don't know of any of them, Tom.
Well, I was going to say this. ESPN, any game, anytime, anywhere. If you subscribe to the streaming service. Right? You've heard that. But it's not true.
Well, it isn't true because that's not true. That's an advertising pitch, but they don't have the rights to every game.
Right.
They just don't. So you're not even with that subscription, which I have the ESPN Plus subscription, and you get a lot of games, but I doubt you're going to get that one.
Like I said, here comes one that you really want to see. Oh, you can't get that one.
Well, Sorry. Listen to it on the radio, I guess.
No sympathy from you. Thanks a lot, friend.
All right. Well, can't help you. Sorry. I don't know. Can't give you the answer that you're looking for because I don't know the answer. All right. It's 9:29. Let's get to a break, and we're going to come back and talk SEC football with the coach, Ellis Johnson. And also some breaking news, high school football breaking news that I'll have for you on the other side of the break as well. And it involves a local program here in the Tuscaloosa area. We'll be right back after this.
Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure a tee time.
Early holiday savings have arrived at Tanger Outlets. Discover the best gifts from your favorite brands, perfect for everyone on your list. And stack your savings with up to 70% off, plus an extra 15 to 25% off only during Tanger Style. Save at Polo Ralph Lauren, Old Navy Outlet, Under Armour, Skechers, J. Crew Factory, and more. Hurry in. These early holiday deals last through November 24th. Tanger Outlets. More savings, more cheer.
Get Black Friday tool deals delivered from the Home Depot. Limit 1 per transaction. Exclusions apply. Full eligible tool list in-store and online.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And, of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily happy hour.
And when you call, you'll actually talk to me. 205-800-8000. I've got this.
No representations made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Any lingering showers ending early this morning. A clearing sky this afternoon. The high 67. Mostly fair tonight. The low 46. Tomorrow and Saturday, the sky's sunny both days. The high tomorrow 64. The high Saturday at 69. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 62 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The best station in the state, breaking down Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:32. It's time for the coach, Ellis Johnson, breaking down SEC football. I do have some breaking news, though, before we get to coach. It's for Tuscaloosa County High. It's just been a tough go. I mean, they just can't keep a football coach. And school putting out a release that this morning at 8 a.m. at a team meeting that Coach Miles Hawcom announced his resignation as head coach. He spent only one season in Northport. The statement went on to say that he had dedicated his time, energy, and leadership to the development of our student athletes, both on and off the field. The release says that they respect his decision and wish him nothing but the best in his future endeavors. And, you know, how these statements go. But once again, Tuscaloosa County High School, which seems to have a lot to offer in Class 7A, is looking for a head football coach. And it's just one of those deals. They're in a 7A Region 3, which obviously is a very strong region with a lot of really good football teams, and they've struggled on the field, but still, it's just remarkable to me that they just seem to be going through one coach after another. But right now, we're going to talk college football with Ellis Johnson, longtime SEC defensive coordinator, former FBS head coach, and joins us every week here to break it all down. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Good morning, Gary. I hate to hear that news about County High. They were a really good program when I was coaching over there.
They sure were, and it's yeah, I hate to hear it too. I like Coach Hawcom, young coach who I thought brought a lot of energy and enthusiasm, but they struggled on the field big time, and he has resigned. Maybe they're going to find somebody eventually who will stick it out there and get it turned around. All right, college football in the SEC. My gosh, you and I've talked about it. It's week to week. You got to be ready to go. Before we look ahead to this weekend, let's look back at last weekend and start with Alabama and LSU. And you know the history of Alabama in Baton Rouge. They've won down there like no other program ever has. They're now 30 wins, 10 losses, and 2 ties in Baton Rouge all time against LSU. and they wore them out Saturday night, 42-13. It was really 42-6 until the final seconds when LSU threw a touchdown pass. Obviously, it started with Milroe in the run game, but the offensive line was dominant. The defense got after Nussmeier. Just a total team effort and a huge win for the Crimson Tide. What did you see?
Yeah, I picked this one not to be as lopsided as it was, but, you've already hit on it. Alabama does not have problems playing in Tiger Stadium. And, everybody from ESPN to whomever, we're talking about how tough an environment it is, and it is, but it's never been for Alabama. But if you go plus three in the turnover margin, and you get 311 yards rushing, that's a pretty good formula for a win, especially on the road. I don't know if they just found the soft spot and kept pounding it, or if that was their plan going in. But, boy, they just really, it seemed LSU had no answers, especially for the quarterback runs. So, it didn't surprise that they won, but, boy, that was a really a lopsided performance.
It really was. And it's another case of what we see in this league. I mean, you see several of these teams at their best, and you watch them and you're like, man, how can anybody, they beat anybody. And then you see Alabama, at Vanderbilt, at Tennessee, they look like an entirely different team. I mean, you got to give the opposition credit. I get that. But we see it with other teams in this league that we'll get to. I guess it's just kind of the nature of where we're at. There's a lot of good football teams, a lot of parity, and every week's a new endeavor. And you just sometimes feel like you don't know what you're going to see from these teams, Coach.
Yeah, I think there's a lack of quality depth across the board because of the portal. And I don't have any empirical evidence, to show that. But it just seems to me that this up and down play, two factors when you start dealing with portal players. You don't know them as well as you think you do. And the other thing is you lose a lot of players that used to give you 10 good plays a game. They go somewhere else and start. So they don't. None of these teams have these 2 deep depth charts where they can lose a player for a week or two and not drop off, or they can have fatigue set in and it not affect them. I see it in a lot of teams that used to they roll players in and out and they never drop the pace of play. Just stayed strong, and that's not the case anymore.
And for LSU, I mean, how disappointing was that performance? I mean, you're at home. You've got just as much on the line as Alabama does. You just, if you're an LSU fan, I know, getting on some of their internet boards, they didn't see this one coming at all. What happened from the LSU perspective?
Well, if you go back even to the beginning of the year, they were not a real good defense. And they made a defensive coordinator change because they were not a good defense the previous year. I think they're going to have to beef up that side of the ball on personnel. Now, they did start improving on defense, and about mid-year, I thought they might be right in the middle of this whole thing because their defense was moving up to a level of play like their offense. But over the last couple of weeks, it tailed off, and they're really having a problem with mobile quarterbacks, especially those that can run the football with designed runs. Their defensive system or either their defensive personnel, they just have not been able to stop these quarterbacks.
Ole Miss and Georgia, and not that this shocks anybody that Ole Miss won, but I do think it's kind of a shocker the way in which they won. I mean, this is a Georgia team that hadn't lost a game to anybody other than Alabama in 4 years, and they went in there at Oxford Saturday afternoon, and Ole Miss handled them 28-10.
Yeah, both of these teams didn't exactly explode on offense, but I just see Georgia starting to sort of lose some momentum. They seem tired. And Gary, I mean, everybody in the SEC plays a hard schedule, but if you look at the gauntlet they've run, and they've got another one this Saturday. And I just think this difficulty with the schedule and this lack of depth I was talking about with teams, they don't have the real dominant 2 deeps. They got about 30 players, and so you got some positions out there that don't have good backup players. And I think those two things, you started to see Georgia lose a little momentum a couple of weeks ago. And Ole Miss has been really just kind of seemed like they have been reloading. Except for their screw up against Kentucky, they may be playing as good as anybody. And they're really up there, ranked in the nation in stock rate. I saw that the other day in a little article reading through it about stop rate. When a defense can get it on a takeaway or a turnover on downs or make them punt. If those three things are the result, what is your stop rate? And they're right up there in the national polls. And so are about 9 of the top 23 are teams that are getting ready to be in the playoffs.
For Georgia, now let's hold off on that because we'll look ahead to the games coming up. So let's go ahead and continue to recap. We'll hold off on Georgia. Let's get to a team that's playing really, really well right now, and that's South Carolina. They went into Nashville and did something not a lot of people have been able to do, and that they kind of didn't just beat Vanderbilt, but they put it to them pretty good, 28-7. When you play the woulda, coulda, and shoulda game, South Carolina is going to certainly be able to play it. They look back at the LSU game. They look back at the Alabama game. Obviously, Ole Miss beat them pretty handily, but this is a team that's playing its best football. And on defense right now, I'm not sure there's a better defense in the league.
Right now, I don't know if there is either. And the only problems, they were good early in the year, but they were having problems with the other side of the ball, turning it over and putting them in bad field position. And so statistically, they didn't look all that great early in the year, but they've had one of the best defenses all season, and especially their pass rush. They're getting a little more consistent against the run, and you're seeing a lot less of the breakdowns in the coverage maybe out back. And their offense now is not turning the ball over. I don't think they've turned it over in the last 2 games, but one time. And a little young quarterback, Sellers, who I've compared to Milroe. He's going to end up being a great one, I think, in a couple of years. But he was a typical rookie quarterback early in the year. And they also, this stock rate I was talking about, I put a lot of stock in that because of the style offense that everybody's running. And you can measure your defense without considering where they got the ball on the field and so forth. And South Carolina's number 10 in the nation in stock rate.
Yeah, they are. They're moving up. Florida got Scott Strickland, the AD, put out a statement last week that said that Billy Napier would be back as head coach, and then they went out to Florida, and I think we're down 30-something at half. Of course, we've talked about the poor luck that Florida's have. You're down to a third-string quarterback, but I don't know. 49-17 was the final. They actually kept playing hard. That's the one thing you've talked about with Florida. They play hard for Billy Napier, and they fought back to some degree because it looked like for a while it just might be horrible. And in the second half, they played a little bit better, but I guess at some point without the quarterbacks, it's just hard to line up and play in this league, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you can't judge Billy's coaching on the last 2 weeks. He's been dealt a hand that nobody could play. But they may get Lagway back this week, and if he's healthy and he can play full speed, they're a whole different team, and maybe they can close out with a couple of wins. Personally, Gary, I think it was a good decision to keep him, and I think you're going to see more of this in college ball. These ADs are starting to see the ticket now on this, what do you call it, revenue sharing? I don't know what these terms are that are coming up. But this financial hit coming down the road, I don't care how much money Disney gives them to play on TV, it's getting to be a problem. And these schools are going to quit paying coaches not to work for them. Going forward, you may see a little bit different style of contracts, may see a little bit less salaries or whatever. But you can't afford to pay off a head coach and bring in 45 new personnel every 3 years. It's going to break the bank. I don't care how much money you get.
You're right. I agree with you 100% on that. Also, last weekend, you had Tennessee beat Mississippi State, and Missouri won a close one against Oklahoma. Let's look ahead now to what we got coming up this week. We won't spend a lot of time on Alabama, other than from the standpoint that I want you to address, human nature. When you win a game like they won it at LSU, and now you're coming home to play an FCS team. Although Mercer is 9-1, and the Southern Conference is a good conference, still you're not playing an SEC team. You're not even playing an FBS team. I guess as a coaching staff for Alabama, the fear is that these guys don't prepare the way they need to and get themselves ready to play. When you were coaching, talk about playing these type of games coming off a major SEC win.
Yeah, it is something you have to be aware of. The first thing is don't change the practice routine. Keep everything the same. Treat them looks like anybody else, so you send that message to your players. If it's not being practiced that way on the field, then you got to take care of it. But their objective, and I always felt like the objective you want on a game like this is when you get out of the stadium after that game, you better be a better football team than you were 7 days ago, and you don't want to get anybody hurt. And if that's the case, then you're getting 2 weeks to prepare for Oklahoma and then later Auburn. So you're right. This next 3 weeks is more of a test of whether this team has some maturity, which early in the season they didn't seem to have it. And if they've got some maturity and focus on the right things and finish this thing out, and they're right there on the edge of the playoffs. And I think if they win these last 3 in a row, I don't think mathematically, we'll talk about it later, but I don't think they can get in the SEC game. They can certainly get in the playoff.
All right, speaking of Auburn, you would think coming off a bye that regardless of the opponent, this team would be ready to go, because they need to win some games. They host ULM. Bryant Vincent, the coach there, has done a good job with them, but they've got they've got A&M and Alabama to close it out after this week. So if you're Auburn, I think if you're a football player, you'd be ready to go. You just would like to get a feeling of winning a game. They haven't won very many, 3 all year.
Yeah, well, first thing you do is remind them about New Mexico. And this is a game that they have no business even being close, but they've got to get better and do things better than they've done throughout the year, or it could be a mess up. But they need to do the same thing. They need to improve and get better. They got 2 real tough games to close out the season. And mathematically, they can go to a bowl game, but the likelihood of them beating Texas A&M and Alabama back-to-back is almost 0. So this is a big win. I think this, if you lose a game like this recruiting class they've been able to hold together, it could end up getting some cracks in it. So they definitely need to play well and win this football game.
All right, let's get to some bigger games. We're not going to spend any time on, even though I love Jody Wright, Murray State at Kentucky and New Mexico State at A&M. We're gonna pass those over, but we're gonna get to some big SEC games, starting with Texas at Arkansas. Old Southwest Conference rivalry. Obviously, on paper, Texas is a better team, but this is one of those games where that stadium, those fans, and that football team, how pumped up they're going to be to get their shot at Texas. So, for the Longhorns, this is one, it's an 11 a.m. kick in Fayetteville. This is one where you better be ready to strap it on tight because Arkansas is going to get after them, won't they?
Yeah. Here, Texas has played one of the easiest schedules in America.
Yeah, they have.
Especially for being the SEC team. And they got beaten home by Georgia, and then they had an onside kick at the end of the game to beat Vandy. Vandy trying to onside them. And they look good. And they passed the eye test, but they haven't beaten a lot of quality opponents this year. And they got Arkansas, then they got Kentucky, and then they're at Texas A&M. And while they'd be favored probably on every one of these games, they really need to play better and show us they can beat a legit SEC football team. So this is a really dangerous game for them. And I think it's time they show up and play to a certain level. It's like everybody's penciling them in as the number 1 seed in a playoff. And they really don't have the schedule and the wins to prove that.
I'm with you. You got to think Chris Del Conte, the AD at Texas, just helped draw up that schedule. That's when you look at it. Missouri and South Carolina. These are 2 top 25 teams. It was going to be in Columbia either way, obviously, but it's in Columbia, South Carolina. We mentioned the Gamecocks are playing really good football. Missouri has, give them credit. They bounced back and won a tough game against Oklahoma. Their quarterback situation obviously has not been ideal with Brady Cook out, but this looks like one of these games that could be a 4-quarter game here to me.
Well, it is. It's amazing. It's better almost 2 touchdowns by the bookies. And if you go back to the beginning of the season, Missouri was projected to be a top 10 team in the nation. South Carolina wasn't even top 25. I'll tell you that if Brady Cook doesn't play, they'll beat Missouri by 20 points.
Yeah, if he doesn't go, that's a different team. Yeah.
Yeah, and if he does play, they'll still beat them if they play up the way they play. And South Carolina right now, unless their offense reverts back to making mistakes and putting themselves in trouble, they right now know who they are and they're playing great football. and really play as well as anybody. Like you said earlier, they play as well as anybody in the country on defense right now. So Missouri's got a tall order to go in there right now and play at South Carolina.
LSU at Florida is a big game for these two head coaches. They're both now under it a little bit, and you've got LSU, believe it or not, could still wind up in Atlanta if they went out. Wouldn't that be something? That could throw a wrench into a lot of things, but it's possible. And for Florida, you're at home. You need a win. I would think that Billy Napier and his staff are, even with their quarterback situation, and if Lagway goes, you're right, they're going to be much better off. Or looking at this game as a winnable game, as a game that, hey, we can beat LSU, don't you think?
Oh yeah, but I do think Lagway has to be healthy and play. As we said earlier, LSU's problem this year, main problem, is they've been having a problem with quarterbacks who can run the football. So Florida really needs Lagway, and they need him to be healthy. But they do have him at home. It hadn't really been that big an advantage for them this year, but it is better than going to Tiger Stadium. And I think that they're overall right now, if they've got Lagway healthy, I say they're as good a football team as LSU. But I think it's a bigger game, obviously, on the playoff picture you were talking about for LSU. But I think it's in some ways for the program, it's a bigger game for Florida.
Yeah, it could really help Napier out a lot. All right, Tennessee at Georgia. And this is a game that has all kinds of ramifications, both in the conference and in the college football playoff. And we haven't been able to say this much the last few years, but Georgia's reeling a little bit, even though they are favored in this game at home by 10 points, which I think has a lot of people, turning their head, much like you mentioned, Carolina, 13.5-point favorite over Missouri. But Georgia's a 10-point favorite, but Tennessee's quarterback situation appears to be up in the air a little bit with Iamaleava in a concussion protocol situation, so we don't know for sure what we're going to get with Tennessee at quarterback. How do you see this matchup?
Yeah, I think that quarterback question is what's affecting this point spread. I look at these two football teams, and in the last couple of weeks, I think Tennessee's playing better football than Georgia is. But, Georgia's been tested with mental toughness and physical toughness before, and they've come through. They didn't last game. And I think they're getting tired, and I don't think they have a real good receiving core. The one thing that worries me about this game for Georgia, Tennessee's defense is for real. They're number 3 in the nation in stop rate. They're one of the best defenses to keep people off the board, and Georgia has struggled on offense the last couple of games. So I think they're legitimately coming in my opinion, as a better football team. But it's at Georgia, and if Tennessee doesn't have a quarterback, Georgia's defense is pretty tough too.
Who do you like in that game ultimately?
I was with Tennessee. As soon as I kind of saw that thing on the schedule for about a week, so I've been saying Tennessee's going to probably beat Georgia. And then I saw it spread 10 points the other way, so I started second guessing myself. But I think if the kid plays at quarterback, I think they beat Georgia.
Real quickly, Coach, just to kind of look at the state of affairs in college football, On3 NIL site is reporting that Michigan is prepared to offer LSU 5-star quarterback commit Bryce Underwood $10.5 million over 4 years. That's according to the Wolverine site On3 Sports. I know it's out there. We know it's happening, but just to see it now out in the open like that, still it's just kind of shocking to me. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, one day they're going to all realize that they're paying him too much. But the fact that kids get paid doesn't bother me. The fact that they can get up and leave anytime they want to does bother me. So my problem with college football is the portal and not the NIL. They've deserved a piece of the pie for a long time, and they kept putting it off, and then it got off the rails, and now they have no mechanism to control it and keep common sense. And if you think there's a kid, and you talk about a high school kid, a signee, if you could sit there and tell me that kid's worth $10 million, then you need to be a pro scout somewhere. I just think this is almost getting ridiculous. But, if the boosters are willing to throw it in the pot, And I don't blame the kids. I blame the adults. That's who got it all screwed up.
Yeah, you already mentioned it with the head coaches' contracts in college football and all of this stuff. There's going to have to be. We keep saying there's going to have to be some changes, but at some point there will be. It just can't keep going on like this. Hey, great stuff, Coach. Appreciate it, man.
Enjoyed it, Gary.
Thank you, Coach Ellis Johnson. We'll come back and wrap up the first hour of the Gary Harris Show right after this.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa, Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after.
Discover better living at First and Main. Visit firstandmaincondos.com or call 205-657-7465. Mention you heard about us on the radio and receive 1 month free rent.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Any lingering showers ending early this morning. A clearing sky this afternoon. The high 67. Mostly fair tonight. The low 46. Tomorrow and Saturday, the sky's sunny both days. The high tomorrow 64. The high Saturday at 69. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 62 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:58 to wrap it up for hour number one of the Gary Harris Show. Again, some breaking news in hour number one for Tuscaloosa County High. Miles Holcomb has resigned as head football coach after just one season. So County High looking for a head football coach again. Hour number two is coming up, and we'll get it started with D. Orlando Ledbetter with the Falcons Report. This is the Gary Harris Show. Second hour is on the way. Stay with us.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Monsi Bolaños.
Three-time Olympic medalist Lindsey Vonn is coming out of retirement to rejoin the U.S. ski team. She announced today intending to race again at the age of 46 years after her most recent Olympics. Week 11 of the NFL kicks off tonight with the 7-2 Eagles hosting the 7-3 Commanders, and it all starts at 8:15 Eastern Time. The NFL Combine will remain in Indianapolis through 2026, the league announced today. The NFL Network is reporting that Patriots standout defensive tackle Christian Barmore, who hasn't played this season as he has dealt with blood clots and is on the non-football illness list, is likely to practice today for the first time since his medical condition was revealed. Last night in the NBA, LeBron James recorded his third straight triple-double.
Early holiday savings have arrived at Tanger Outlets. Discover the best gifts from your favorite brands, perfect for everyone on your list. And stack your savings with up to 70% off, plus an extra 15 to 25% off only during Tanger Style. Save at Polo Ralph Lauren, Old Navy Outlet, Under Armour, Skechers, J. Crew Factory, and more. Hurry in. These early holiday deals last through November 24th. Tanger Outlets. More savings, more cheer.
It's easier for talented candidates to find it, which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, here we go. Hour number two of the Gary Harris Show. We're rocking and rolling this morning for this Thursday, November 14th, 2024. I'm Gary Harris. Chase Brumfeld's doing all the heavy lifting, taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline at 205-342-9904. But we're going to start this hour off with the Atlanta Falcons report with D. Orlando Ledbetter. esteemed beat writer for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, AJC.com for the Atlanta Falcons, and we do it every week. Good morning, Orlando. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, Gary. Thanks for having me today.
Pleasure as always. And we talked about this last week. You can never relax if you're a Falcons fan. And now listen, they still benefit from being in a terrible division that they've got the upper hand in, but still, nonetheless, disappointing loss Sunday at New Orleans to a team that just fired their head coach, Dennis Allen. And you go down there, and of course, you barely beat them here in Atlanta, but still, that's a game that they should have won on paper, but they don't play them on paper. They played them inside the Superdome, and the Falcons came up short 20-17. What did you see in that game?
Yeah, just too many mistakes for a team that's trying to get back to the postseason and be a legitimate threat there. 3 missed field goals, a big interception late, a sack when, you're trying to win the game, given up by your left tackle, Jake Matthews. Just too many mistakes for a team that's trying to win the division and get to the playoffs.
Yeah, what happened? Siwoo Kim's been one of the best kickers in the National Football League. What happened to him?
Yeah, well, he's been showing signs of breakdown throughout, starting at the exhibition season where he missed 3 from the left hash in Baltimore. Then he fixed that, and then, he missed one against Seattle, missed one against the Bucs late. The one was late to, give him an 8-point lead. He missed it. And then, last week he missed his left hash kick. He went straight. It didn't turn at all. And then he overcompensated and missed a 46-yarder from the same hash. Sliced it all the way over to the right upright. So he's in a bad place right now with his kick and swing, especially from the left hash. If I'm the offense, I'll try to get him in the middle of the field for the next few games, so you could have a shot at going straight down the middle with it. And then the blocking hurt him too. They blocked one, a 35-yarder. He said he had to hit it better. But, I think they just kind of collapsed the line and got back there and got a block. But we'll see here today what the special teams coordinator has to say about that.
Do you think they might look to make a change at the kicker position if he doesn't start performing better?
They'll be forced to if he doesn't start. But, Raheem is married to him. He was the kicker for Raheem in 2020. And Dan Quinn, when they were, having all kinds of problems. And so Raheem's like, hey, I know he's a gamer. I'm going to let him work through it. And he's providing a lot of support to do that. And they didn't bring in any kickers or anything last week. So that shows him that, hey, they're not thinking about it.
The Falcons' bye week coming later than most in the league, but they've got to get through one more game before they get to it. And this won't be an easy game. At Denver against the Broncos, a Broncos team that's Bo Nix, their rookie quarterback, playing very well. Wouldas, couldas, and shouldas don't mean anything in this league, but they should have beaten the Chiefs on Sunday, and they didn't. But this is a Denver team that's at home, and I haven't even looked at what the weather's going to be out there. But this looks like a tough game to me for the Falcons.
Yeah, no doubt, Gary. I looked at it last night. It's going to be in the 50s, low 30s, so it'll be getting colder as the day progresses out there. But there should be, 50s is doable.
Yeah, very. Yeah.
That'll be okay. I've been messed up. Or they had a foot of snow in Colorado last week, too. So, but it looks like they're going to be okay weather-wise. Football-wise, they got problems. Denver's got a top-ranked defense in every category. And I don't know any of these guys other than Patrick Surtain II. I've been studying on Zach. I got a couple names, but I haven't done any work on them. But Surtain's the big gun out there. Nick Bonito's got 7 sacks. And then it's just some guys, P.J. Locke and another guy named Pat. Zach up front. You got John Franklin Myers. I got to go do my homework on this defense, but it's top ranked. They only give up 17 points a game, so it's going to be tough sledding for the Falcons offense.
What will the Falcons offensively need to do to have some success against this defense? But run the ball with Robinson and try to get it established there, or they look to the passing game first?
Yeah, I'm going to stay away from Surtain. So whoever he's got, the other receivers getting a whole bunch of balls. So if they put him on Drake London, it's going to be a Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts game. But, yeah, you certainly want to run the ball because you don't want to be one-dimensional. And they're 7th against the run, so that's not going to be an easy chore either. It's that wide tackle, 9-3-4 Wade Phillips defense. So, you should have some lanes to get Bijan through. And then, him out of the backfield is going to be a little, that should be available also. So him on the check downs and the outside lanes against the wide zone is a good matchup schematically, it's a good matchup for you.
I mentioned getting to the bye. Do you sense this team needs that bye week? And, of course, a lot of teams will be playing Thanksgiving week or playing actually on Thanksgiving. The Falcons will get, I know they'll be preparing, but they won't have to worry about a game Thanksgiving week. Is this bye coming at a good time?
Yes, most definitely, because they're starting to take on some injury water. Tyquan Graham and James Smith-Williams, two of their run defenders up front, are going to be out for the year. We don't know exactly. The tibia for James Smith-Williams and a pec for Tyquan. So, you needed some beef up front against a front that was already kind of light. So, that'll be good. You're getting Lorenzo Carter back. Might have to finally play Brandon Dorless, the 4th-round pick from Oregon. And then, you might get Ruka Roru back in a couple more weeks from the high ankle sprain. But, this is coming at a good time for the Falcons injury-wise.
We discussed this last week, Orlando. I mean, even with that loss to the Saints, Atlanta's still in really good shape in this division. Having said that, you got to keep winning games, and you look at the schedule. I'd say it's so-so. I mean, a tough one against the Broncos coming out of the bye. You get the Chargers and the Vikings, but then you get the Raiders, Giants, and Carolina 3 of your last 4 games that you should win on paper. Washington could be a toss-up game. Falcons still are clearly the favorite to win this NFC South, right?
Yeah, no doubt. But do you want to get there at 9-8? I think you're going to need 10 to get free and clear. Even though you'll have the tiebreaker over Tampa if that's your main competition. But yeah, so basically it comes down to beating either Denver, the Vikings, the Chargers, or the Commanders. So that 1, and if you get the 3 you're supposed to get, that's 4. So that gets you to 10. And then you'll have a shot to, get to 11 and 12 and get ready for the playoffs if you handle business here in the month of November.
All right. Well, you've got to start handling business this Sunday in Denver. Who do you like in the game, the Falcons or the Broncos?
That's just such a tough place to play, and I have so much respect for Sean Payton and what he did in New Orleans. It's going to be tough for the Falcons to win out there in Mile High, especially with both teams coming off of horrible losses. I'm thinking Denver's going to find a way to win out there at home.
And lastly, you've said this many times, the NFL likes to set it up where there's parity, and theoretically everybody goes 500, or with over 17 games, you can't go 500, but it's competitive. What do you make of the Chiefs, though? Just continuing to find a way to win games. I mean, they got outplayed by the Broncos and block a field goal to win it. They go to Buffalo. Is their luck finally coming to an end as far as finding a way to win these games? Do you think Buffalo takes them down?
No, because I think they're going to find their A game. When they need the A game, they usually find it. They know they didn't need it against the Chiefs, and they didn't have it. So, but when it was time to win the game, they won the game. which we've seen them do time and time again. But yeah, they're going to step up in class. They're going to take their A game with them to Buffalo, and we'll see where that is. They got to play Baltimore here late too. That's the Chiefs team I'll be expecting to see. We'll see how it works out for them against the Buffalo Bills this week.
Yeah, and Eagles Commanders tonight, battle for first in the NFC East. How do you see that game?
Yeah, I just think the Eagles are real solid. They were wobbly early on. Their defense is coming around. Jalen's playing some good ball. A.J. Brown's back. Yeah, they're looking like they're legit. Whereas, the Commanders are, doing great with the rookie quarterback. But now it's starting to see if they could, beat some of the better teams in the league.
And lastly, one final thought just on the Cowboys and where they're headed. I mean, Jerry Jones is going to run things as long as he's there. I think he is not going to bring in somebody to oversee football operations other than himself. But what do you make of that whole organization? And then you've got Micah Parsons. He said he didn't throw the head coach under the bus, but I don't know any other way you could take it. They just seem like that. It's the Cowboys, but boy, that does seem like a soap opera from the outside looking in. What do you make of it?
Yeah, that's going to be a real disturbing moving forward because they'll have the highest paid quarterback, one of the highest paid receivers, then they got to pay Michael Parsons, so they won't be left to build much around it, and you're probably looking at a new coach there, next year. So Dallas looks like it's headed for a quasi-rebuild around all these players that they, paid when they thought they were at a Super Bowl level. So it's going to be interesting to see how they move forward.
All right. Great stuff, Orlando. Fill everybody in on where they can find you.
They can find me at AJC.com or on the Twitter app at DOrlandoAJC.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, Gary. All right.
All right. Orlando Ledbetter. Great update on the Falcons report. It's 10:15. Hey, listen, if you need to get yourself looking good for your upcoming proms, homecoming dances, whatever it may be, T-Town Menswear, T-Town Gallery, and University Mall can hook you up. Tom has got a prom special as a young gentleman. Come in there and just for $99, he's going to get you looking your best. I mean, that is some kind of deal. Just go in and say you want the prom special. You heard about it on the Gary Harris Show, and Tom will hook you up. And when it's prom time, you're going to look like $1 million with just spending $99. How about that? At T-Town Menswear, T-Town Gallery in the University Mall. All right, well, we're open for phone calls in the next segment on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline 205-342-9904. Again, some breaking news. Tuscaloosa County High once again looking for it.
Today's repair and the future repairs. No overtime charges on weekends and holidays. No hassle guarantee. Adams Heating and Cooling, 205-872-0045.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Any lingering showers ending early this morning. A clearing sky this afternoon. The high 67. Mostly fair tonight. The low 46. Tomorrow and Saturday, the sky's sunny both days. The high tomorrow is 64. The high Saturday at 69. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 63 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Follow the Crimson Tide on their journey to another national championship. Touchdown, Alabama! On your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
$10:20. A little context on the Tuscaloosa County High School situation. It's a mess. That's the context, and it hasn't always been this way. Even since I've lived here, this program has had some great success. But if you go back, Jack Cook, 11 years, had a winning record. Jimmy Norrell from 87 to 90 went 30-12. Bobby Moore went 52-38 from 91 to 98, won a state championship in Class 6A. And then Robert Higginbotham, Coach Higg, went 89-30 in his career at County High from 99 to 2008, and had teams that competed for a state championship. Then Lee Gibson kept it going with a winning record from 2009 to 15, 42-36. And then after Gibson left, it kind of started going down a little bit anyway. The Bart Sessions in his 1 year went 2-8. John Holliday in 2 years went 5-15. Jay Todd in 2 years went 5-15. Then Adam Weingarten, who County High went all in on when he came over from Auburn High School, facility-wise, staff-wise, everything else. And they felt like he was going to be there for the long haul. And he did some decent things. They went 12-18 in 3 years, but you were seeing progress. And then he left to join the staff at Troy, which I know was disappointing to a lot of people that had helped get him there. And then this past year, Miles Holcomb started 0-9. The Wildcats did beat Paul Bryant in the season finale to go 1-9 on the season. So now you look at it, and since 2016, you've had 5 head coaches. You're about to be on your 6th. And since 2016, the cumulative record is 25-65. 25-65. And you're in Class 7A Region 3. So that's where they're at. All right, let's jump out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline and welcome in the Cowboy. Hey, Cowboy.
How you doing, Gary?
Doing pretty well.
Tell you what, old Coach Higginbottom, he was a heck of a football coach. Boy,
yeah, one of the best. One of the best high school football coaches the state's ever seen.
Against his team, we used to have some battles against his team at Barry Shades Valley game. Woo! Coach Finley.
Oh yeah, when he was at Shades Valley. Of course, before that, he won the last state championship at Mountain Brook. And then then had the run at Shades Valley, and then of course had a nice run at County High. He was a good one.
Yeah. Well, hey, what you like on this weekend's ball games? You got anything in that smart pill you've been thinking about?
Well, went 3-3 last week, which not awful. Keeps me right around 500 for the season. I'm going to make my picks tomorrow when I'm live at Industry Irish Pub for Fridays at the Free for my SEC point spread predictions. But I don't know, just kind of glancing over them. By this time of the year, these odds makers usually pretty much have it nailed down. For some reason in this game, they're just begging you to take Tennessee. I mean, you would say, Tennessee with one loss, getting 10 points, but I'm leery of that. I mean, heck, man, it took 4 years for anybody in this league other than Alabama to beat Georgia. Now, do we really think they're going to lose 2 in a row? I don't know. They're at home. There's no line. I always use the ESPN odds, ESPN bet, and they don't have a line listed for Alabama and Mercer. I mean, I know you can get one, and same thing for Murray State at Kentucky, but they don't have it listed. It's a tough week to me. I see the South Carolina, just like Coach Ellis Johnson said, if Cook doesn't play, South Carolina may blow them out. But if he does play, 13.5 is a pretty big number to me, Cowboy, for, Missouri is, a good team. So I don't know what you got anything you're looking at. LSU's laying 4 at Florida. Texas laying 13.5 at Arkansas. I mean, I'm going to have a tough time picking some of these games.
I believe I would like Texas in that 13.5 at Arkansas. I know it sounds goofy. Everybody gets on the Arkansas. I just don't think they're that good of a football team. And, to me, against Ole Miss, Arkansas looked like they didn't even want to be out there from the first time they had the football. If you look at that quarterback,
yeah, that's true.
Arkansas.
But oftentimes you'll see a team, after an embarrassment like that, and they got a rival coming in, an arch rival. Because let me tell you, those Arkansas people, There's nothing like beating Texas to them now. Nothing. So, but I see what you're saying. At the same time, it's still for me kind of hard to get a gauge on Texas. I mean, they have had a schedule laid out. You couldn't. I said I don't know if Chris Del Conte was in the room when they put the schedule together for Texas, but it sure looks like it was. They played really one top tier team in the SEC and got whipped. And
their schedule's been Cupcake City.
It has. And so I don't know, again, at the end of the day, where Texas is at. So, but that's what this whole year is like for me, Cowboy. It's so much like the NFL right now. You look at the SEC and week to week, game to game. Like I said, that Alabama team that we saw Saturday night, I'd put them up against anybody in the country right now. But what Alabama team will we see? We're going to see that team?
Yeah.
Are we going to see the team that went to Nashville? I mean, or Knoxville and stumbled around. So, and you could say that about other teams. When you saw Georgia in Austin, you said, well, man, ain't nobody else going to beat Georgia. And then they got hammered. And you saw Ole Miss at South Carolina or at home against Georgia, and you think nobody can beat them. And then they got beat at home by Kentucky, which to me is still Kentucky beating Ole Miss in Oxford is still the most inexplicable game in the SEC this year. Because Kentucky's bad.
I watched the first half of that Kentucky Ole Miss game before we went to Tuscaloosa from Birmingham for the Georgia game, and I tell you, that Kentucky defensive front just ate that Ole Miss line's lunch.
They did, but other than that game, and other than the Georgia game that they almost won, Kentucky's been a bad football team. I mean, they lost to Auburn at home. Yeah, that's the only SEC game Auburn's won.
Yeah,
and gave up 275 yards rushing to one guy. So I don't know. It's hard. If you were making your living, I just do it for fun picking these SEC games. But if you were trying to make your living betting SEC football, buddy, it would be tough because every week you get thrown a curveball. Every week you think you know something, and then you find out you really don't.
Yeah. Well, I kind of got two things here. To me, this SEC football season hasn't been that fun to watch. I mean, it's just so helter-skelter. It hadn't been a lot of fun in my eyes, but maybe some people like it. I don't know. I kind of like a dominant, powerful team, and you kind of get behind them and watch it. But it's all. I went to the beach this summer and I bought a magazine and I looked at all the schedules of everybody, Big Ten, whatever. I said this thing's designed to go 10-2 to create chaos, so they'll have a 16-team playoff, and that and on and on. But another thing, what do you think about Oklahoma saying yesterday, or maybe it was Tuesday, I'm not for sure, that they're sticking with Brent Venables, this and that, and the president came out in support of him. That Alabama game is going to be a kind of a Waterloo game in my eyes for Brent Venables.
Yeah, I think they're going to stick with Brent Venables. I think that what Coach Ellis Johnson said earlier is going to it's going to ring true. With where we're headed out financially, with how tough it's going to be, firing these coaches one right after another and paying these enormous buyouts. I think Venables is back next year, regardless of what happens. I don't see it as a Waterloo game.
At 5-7, they're going to be happy with that. And
I didn't say they're going to be happy. That's not what I said. They're not going to be happy. I said I think he's going to be back as the coach, regardless of what happens this year. That's what I said. Well, it's like Billy Napier's coming back. You think Florida fans are happy? No. People are going to have to get over what they think. Let me tell you where we're at. Alabama is not providing a media meal anymore at men's basketball games for the media. That's where we're at now financially. They've cut out giving a meal or even a ticket for the concession stand. These athletic departments are cutting corners anywhere they can, and you're going to have to see. Ellis is right. You're going to have to see a reworking of these contracts, the way they're going to do these contracts, because you can't just keep hiring these guys and paying these outrageous contracts and then firing them after 2 or 3 years, even if they're not good. It's just not gonna for no guarantee that you're going to get a guy that's better. I mean, you're going to see.
Tell you right,
it's going to start getting different for coaches.
Yeah, they're not going to be any better next year. They flip the schedule. At best, it'll be 8-4.
Yeah, well, I think he'll be back under any circumstance. I don't see Oklahoma pulling the string on him yet.
Well,
another pickle is Kentucky. You know, Kentucky's locked in now with Mark Stoops, who really tried to kind of get out of there last year, and it fell through with A&M, and he's done a good job. But man, you wonder if if he's kind of hit the crescendo there as far as he can take that program. But they're not in position to do anything there. Auburn's not in a position to do anything with Hugh Freeze. LSU's not in position to do anything with Brian Kelly. So you've got a lot of fan bases that might not be happy with their coach. But this isn't 10 years ago, 5 years ago even. Well, we're unhappy. We're gonna eat this contract and get rid of the guy. That's going to quit happening. They're going to stay with these guys longer.
Yeah,
they're going to have to.
Mediocrity is the norm. But one last.
Well, it may be. If you're mediocre, you hope you have a coach that can take you from there, and because there's a fine line in this league as we're seeing now between winning and losing. So 1 year you could be mediocre, and the next year the ball bounces your way. You bring in a couple of transfers, and you might be a 7-5 team. The next year is 11-1. I mean, we're seeing that. Or you might be an 11-1 team, but the next year 7-5. That's where we're at with the portal and the NIL and the margin for error. In fact, Rodney Orr sent me something, Cowboy, just a little while ago from the On3 NIL site that said Michigan is now prepared to offer LSU 5-star quarterback commit Bryce Underwood $10.5 million over 4 years. That's according to Wolverine On3. And, LSU, let me tell you what, if they're going to keep Bryce Underwood, you know what they're going to have to do? They're going to have to pony up more than they ponied up. Otherwise, I expect they'll probably flip to Michigan. But that's where the money's going. The money is going to the NIL. The money is going to players. It's going to building the roster, and they're going to start. These programs are going to start saying, you know what, we can find a coach that will come in here if he's got good players and win for a lot less money than we've been paying these guys. And when you're at the point where you're cutting out meals for the media at basketball games, then you better believe that money's tighter than people want to believe. I've been saying that for some time. These athletic departments, people just see the TV money and they think it's just an endless stream of cash. But I've discussed, and I got to get to the break here. As I've discussed, two sports make money at Alabama: football and men's basketball. That's it. Everything else is in the red, and those sports have to be paid for too, and they got to pay NIL money in those sports too. So we're going toward a different era in college sports. Hey, got to run, Cowboy. Thanks.
All right. Hey, one last thing. Did you see that play? I don't know if you've talked about where that cheerleader flipped into that Oklahoma player in an Auburn-Oklahoma game. That's the funniest thing of the year so far to me.
Send it to me. I hadn't seen it. You have to send it to me.
It was on Oklahoma ran out for their.
Yeah, I'm just saying I hadn't seen it. I hadn't seen it. So if you got it, if you got a clip, send it to me. If not, I'll look for it. So, no, I did see it. You're right. They were backflipping, right? They were backflipping, and yeah, Cowboy going off. I saw it. I did see it.
Bring you 100% satisfaction and appointments set around your schedule. Give us a call for all your steam cleaning needs. 205-553-9460. Houston Hydro Steam. Quality work you can stand on.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
All right, 10:37 and running a little bit behind because of some phone calls, but we're now going to catch up with Jeff Spiegel, sports anchor, ABC 3340, host of The Zone, host of the EOG Wrap, and joins us every Thursday here to talk some sports here on the Gary Harris Show. How you doing, Jeff?
Great, Gary. You sound like you're at a remote location.
I am. I'm not in studio today, so but good to have you with us. Hey, listen. you see Alabama on Saturday night at LSU, and it's almost like this for every team in this league. I've been saying this is like the NFL now, week to week, game to game. When you see Alabama do what they did to LSU, you think, my gosh, they'll win the national championship. But then you look back and you remember how they stumbled around in Knoxville, and you remember what happened in Nashville. And but that, insert team. 1 week a team looks great. The next week they have questions, whether it's Alabama, Texas, Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee. You go on and on. That's just kind of where we're at in the SEC. And as a result, we may have 5 or 6 teams with 2 losses at the end of the year. That's the modern landscape of SEC football.
Yeah, you're exactly right. There's so much parity in this league and all across college football, really. I mean, you look at it, you got like 18 teams who have a legitimate claim that they could be in that, 12-team playoff. And, if you want to believe Eli Drinkwitz, you could go as far down as 24 in Missouri. But, I mean, it's just – and you look at Alabama's body of work, and they lost at Vanderbilt. And, hopefully, for the Tide and Tide fans' sake, that loss will come back to haunt them. But Vanderbilt's a bowl team. And then you look at Tennessee. Well, Tennessee's a college football playoff team. Then you look at South Carolina, and everybody was up in arms when they barely got by South Carolina. And South Carolina's, the best 6-3 team in college football. I mean, they could easily be a 1-loss team and up there, in the college football playoffs. So, that they played a demanding schedule. Here they are. They're 7-2. They control their own destiny in terms of the playoff. And I mean, if I'm an Alabama fan, I'm looking at this and going, you know what? Things are going pretty well.
Yeah, I'm with you. Things are going pretty well. And now it's all laid out for Alabama. Let me get to the SEC championship quandary, SEC championship game. And listen, Alabama's won 29 of them. I've always said, man, winning an SEC championship should be special. And I hate in recent years, it's even been devalued to some degree. I still think it's a big deal, and you may have a chance to win 30. But unintended consequence of conference expansion, no divisions, expanded playoff, is that it could hurt you to be in this SEC championship game. Number one, let's say you're a 2-loss team and you lose, all of a sudden you're a 3-loss team. And you wouldn't think that would be held against you, but there'll be a lot of people crying. You can't take a 3-loss team ahead of this 1-loss or 2-loss team. And if you lose, then you got to turn around and play again, and we'll have to play an extra game if you make a run. Now, if you win, you get a top 4 seed and you get an SEC championship. But I imagine there'll be some of these teams that if they are 10-2 would just as soon take a pass on that SEC championship game, Jeff.
Well, I mean, the plus side of it, you go in there and you win, and you get a top 4 seed. That's the plus side of it. Obviously, there's some negative if you lose, but looking at it from that perspective, every game from here on out's a playoff game. Then, I mean, there are a lot of teams that can't afford to have one more loss. So, the easy solution to that, Gary, is don't lose. Don't lose. And then you find yourself in the position where you want to be, where you're contending for, a national championship. So, yeah, I mean, it's a dogfight. It's a slugfest. There's a big pack of teams there with 2 losses. Good news for Alabama is, they got the tiebreaker, among those 2-loss teams, and now you're kind of rooting for. You're kind of rooting for Georgia to beat Tennessee, right? And then you're kind of you control your own destiny, but you also want other things to kind of fall in place for you.
This weekend is going to test the maturity of this football team. Wouldn't you agree with that, Jeff? In that you're coming off that dominant performance at LSU, and now you come in against an FCS team from the Southern Conference. Now they're 9-1, but they're still the Mercer Bears. They lost to Stanford, but I think we'll see, based on Alabama's performance in this game, how they went about preparing this week. Do you look up in the third quarter, midway through the third quarter, and is it 35-3? Or do you look up in the middle of the third quarter and is it 20-10? I think this is a test to see if Alabama took the loss at Vanderbilt, even though it was an SEC game. I don't think they got themselves ready to play in that game. and learn from their past experiences. How do you think they'll handle this weekend?
Well, I think they'll handle it well. I mean, I think this is a pretty mature team. You got good leadership there, with Tyler Booker and all those guys, Deontay Lawson, and I think they're going to get each other ready to play. I would much rather have Mercer than have another SEC team because historically, and Gary, you know this, after the LSU game, you are so beat up physically. Whether you win by 29 or whether you win by 9 or whether you win by 3. I mean, that is a physically taxing game and emotionally draining as well. So, and this Mercer team comes in and they're 9-1. I mean, they're a really good FCS team, but you should be able to take care of business and beat those guys and then move on to the remaining 2 games on your schedule, the trip to Norman and then the Iron Bowl in Tuscaloosa.
Georgia doesn't have to bounce back very often. In fact, they haven't had to bounce back from a loss to anybody other than Alabama in 4 years. But now they will. And there's a popular thought out there that Tennessee, although we don't know what Tennessee's situation is with Iamaleava at quarterback in concussion protocol, it's been reported. But I just don't know that I can wrap my arms around Georgia hadn't lost to anybody in 4 years other than Alabama. Now we're talking about them losing 2 in a row. Granted, they got it handed to them at Ole Miss, but are people all of a sudden selling Georgia a little short here against Tennessee?
Yeah, Gary, good job on the Tennessee quarterback's last name, by the way. I've massacred that all fall. But, I mean, look, Georgia with their backs up against the wall, I mean, I would put money on Georgia this weekend. Here's the thing that concerns me, though. They got offensive line issues. They've got receiver issues. And listen, they've got Carson Beck issues. Carson Beck has thrown 12 picks this year, and he is not. Now he's come through and won some games for them and made some plays for them, but Ole Miss exposed Georgia, and to me, if we want to transition into Ole Miss here, that is a team I would not want in my bracket in the college football playoff. Those guys are extremely dangerous. That defensive front and then, Jackson Dart. It's like, who needs Trey Harris? They're just an extremely dangerous football team. But, Georgia, backs up against the wall. They're going to come out fighting. And I like them to beat Tennessee, especially if Nico's not available.
South Carolina's a really good team, and defensively they might be as stout as anybody in the league. And a lot of teams are playing the woulda, coulda, and shoulda game, but they are too. I mean, they should have beat LSU. They could have beaten Alabama. Now Ole Miss went in there and put it on them pretty good, but they've got a game against Missouri this weekend at home. That if they win this game, this South Carolina team, maybe not in terms of playoff or anything like that, but in terms of being into a good bowl and a team that's on the rise. Of course, they still got Clemson to play in their rivalry game, but they got a chance to make a statement against another top 25 team at home.
Well, I love Shane Beamer. I think he's just a great coach, and every year in the past 3 or 4 years, I mean, he's come up with some big wins. And you're right. I mean, they have just played great football, and defensively, I mean, they'll get after you. And they had a bad call, against LSU. Should have won that game. Alabama almost won that game. So as I mentioned a while ago, I mean, this is a team that's hot right now, and you look at them and they've got 3 losses. But man, I think their body of work has been pretty special. I think they play really good football, and I look for them to kind of run out here. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they beat Clemson. I think Clemson is a very gettable football team right now, and South Carolina, I think, is the better team of those two.
Jeff, I talked about this with Ellis Johnson earlier, but you've got Florida last week. Scott Strickland, the AD, giving Billy Napier the word that he'll be back next year as head coach. Of course, their quarterback situation at Texas wasn't good. They get blown out there, although they did keep playing hard. And then LSU fans are not happy with Brian Kelly right now. So one of these coaches is going to start catching even more heat The winner kind of gets the fans off his back. And LSU, believe it or not, still has a path to Atlanta. So a big game for these two teams.
Yeah, they do. And I don't know if Scott made too quick a call on that or not. Of course, listen, we've seen votes of confidence go the other direction, right? I mean, if things keep going downhill, for Billy, but that was a tough deal for them in Texas. But now Texas is a top 5 football team. Texas is a really good football team. You were playing at their place, and Texas was hot, and I didn't see them, coming close to winning that football game anyway. And then now you've got LSU, who's, pretty mad, and there's a sense of urgency, for them. Florida's got nothing to play for but pride. But LSU's got their season to play for, and so, I like LSU, winning that one pretty handily. And, it remains to be seen whether this vote of confidence will stick, with Billy Napier. It looked awful bad if Scott went back on his word on that deal, though.
It would. Arkansas lives to beat Texas from their old Southwest Conference days. They get to host them Saturday morning in Fayetteville. Obviously, Texas is a pretty big favorite in this one, 13.5. And Arkansas looked awful against Ole Miss. But, they're going to rally the troops in Fayetteville for this one. Is Texas on upset watch here?
I don't think so. I mean, I think Texas is playing, so well right now. They're clicking offensively, and yeah, I mean, it's a game. It's a game a lot of people are looking forward to, from those fan bases. But I think Texas, has a lot of focus. I was very impressed with the way they came out, and just hammered Florida and just took care of business there. So yeah, I mean, I don't see the Horns having any issues here.
All right, Jeff, the Auburn Tigers off a bye. They get Bryant Vincent and the ULM Warhawks. Surely Auburn should win the game, but I don't think Shirley's gonna suit up, and we can't can't take anything and with Auburn and just say it's an automatic. We don't know what Peyton Thorne's status is at quarterback. What do you think of this Auburn team? And they've got A&M and Alabama after that. If they win these last 3, they could still be bowl eligible. What do you expect to see from Auburn on Saturday?
Well, Gary, they're saying all the right things. All the players are talking about finishing strong and staying together and playing for each other and all of that stuff. But I still point to, and we've talked about this every week, this weird dynamic between Hugh Freeze and Peyton Thorne. The latest thing was yesterday on the SEC teleconference where he goes, yeah, that shoulder's not looking too good. He didn't look like he was ready to play, on Tuesday. I know Peyton thinks he can play, but he sure didn't look like he was ready to play on Tuesday. It sounds like Hugh's looking for a reason not to play Peyton Thorne on Saturday. But he trots him out in front of the media on Tuesday. Now, if your quarterback's injured and you have concerns about him playing on Saturday, why would you put him in front of the media on Tuesday before the Saturday game? Why would you do that? And exactly. Thorne, they've asked Thorne about, well, has Coach talked to you about making a change? No, haven't heard anything about that. So it's just really just strange. So I think the two guys who need to have their head on straight, if you're going to make a push for a bowl game, and first of all, it ain't going to happen. But if you are serious about making a push to go 3-0 the rest of the way and win a bowl game, the two people who need to be on the same page more than anybody else are the head coach and the quarterback. And those guys haven't been on the same page all year long. So I don't expect any magic to happen like over the next 3 games. Yeah, I mean, I think they'll beat ULM, but in terms of surprising people and beating A&M and beating Alabama, there ain't no chance in the world that's happening.
Jeff, lastly, we're short on time, but I've been talking this morning about the changing face. You see that Michigan now, according to On3 NIL, has offered Underwood, the LSU quarterback, commitment, $10.5 million over 4 years. You see these coaches' contracts. These teams are locked into, some schools are paying 2 or 3 coaches that don't even work there anymore. But we're at a point now where at Alabama, they quit serving a media meal at basketball games. because they're trying to cut costs. Whether it's Napier, whether it's Brian Kelly, whether it's Hugh Freeze, these coaches are going to start getting a longer opportunity to get it right, I think. I don't think that these schools, no matter what people on the outside think, there's just an endless supply of revenue. And the revenue, they want to put it toward NIL. They want to put it toward, building up their rosters. They want to put it toward covering the non-revenue sports. I think these coaches are going to have a longer lifeline than people think. I don't think the days of you bring a guy in 2 or 3 years later, you fire him just because he hasn't been successful. People are going to get tired of eating these contracts, Jeff. What do you think about that?
Well, and I think that's part of the reason, Scott's sticking with Billy.
Exactly. So you need out.
Yeah, it's all of that. I'm sure that, that got some people's attention when they saw the statement and they go, that's kind of weird. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's not all about, wins and losses, right now. So that's an excellent point. I mean, people are going to take a little longer to press the button now than they used to, for sure.
All right, Jeff, great stuff. And I know you got a busy weekend once again.
Yeah, absolutely. EOG wrap right after the Georgia-Tennessee game Saturday night. Then Sunday, The Zone at 10:30 on ABC 3340 as well. Gary, appreciate the plugs, appreciate the time, and have a great rest of the week, man.
Thanks.
The place to be. Visit us now to save big and discover why so many are switching to BMW. BMW of Tuscaloosa. Take your dreams for a drive.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Any lingering showers ending early this morning. A clearing sky this afternoon. The high 67. Mostly fair tonight. The low 46. Tomorrow and Saturday, the sky's sunny both days. The high tomorrow 64. The high Saturday at 69. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 64 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The best sports talk in the state. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, that's going to put a wrap on the Thursday edition of the Gary Harris Show. Reminder, tomorrow morning I'll be live at Innisfree Irish Pub. Fridays at the 3. And I'll be giving away another great print, courtesy of T-Town Menswear and T-Town Gallery in the University Mall with Bama football trivia. We'll get you ready for the big game. That's tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. For Chase Brumfeld, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for listening. T-Town Sports Daily is coming up next. Have a great day, everybody.
For listening to the